As many of you know who watch or now listen to the live show, I have talked about my food allergies and FODMAP issues. This makes it tough for me to find something to drink that is both healthy and energizing. Well, lucky for me, Magic Mind has come into my life, and I think you should try it too, whether you have digestive problems or not. I started drinking Magic Mind in May to start my day. In fact, there is a video of me trying it for the first time on Unfound's YouTube channel, and it has allowed me, even at almost 52 years old, to continue to be the hardest working person in true crime. It tastes great, it goes down smooth, and the L-theanine in Magic Mind will pick you up, but you won't crash later, unlike caffeine. So right now, go to www.magicmind.co/unfound. And by using the discount code UNFOUND20, that's UNFOUND20, within the next 10 days, you will get 40% off your subscription. That's right, 40%. Kick caffeine to the curb with Magic Mind. Mekayla Margaret Bali was a 16-year-old from Yorkton, Saskatchewan, Canada. She was a shy girl who played the violin. On April 12th, 2016, Mekayla was dropped off at school but didn't attend any classes. Over the next several hours, videos around town showed Mekayla going to various locations by herself. These sightings ended at about 1:30 p.m. She was never seen again. I'm Ed Dentzel, and this is Unfound. 2022 so far has been a year where I've started to expound on my ideas about disappearances. 2021 was all about classifications of different missing persons cases and beginning to teach them to college students. But this year has been about beginning to go deeper. For example, I've recently made public a two-pronged test on how to determine if a disappearance involves foul play or not. Another topic that has been on my mind, though, is video and its role in solving disappearances. Or maybe more accurately, why doesn't video seem to solve these cases as easily as we think it should? For example, these are still unsolved disappearances which have ample video evidence. Brian Schaefer, Tom Brown, Chance Engelbert, Brandy Wells, Justin Gaines, and there are many more. How can this be? What is everyone, the public, law enforcement, and true crime podcasters not understanding? I'll get into this much more after the interview. This is relevant because with the disappearance of Mekayla Bali, she appeared on more video that day than all of the other missing persons combined that Unfound has covered. Yet Mekayla is still missing. What goes wrong between theory and practice? And now a summary of the case. This disappearance is not on the Charlie Project because it occurred in Canada. Mekayla Bali had only gotten her new last name months before she disappeared. Until that point, she had been Mekayla Niebergall. For all of her life, Mekayla lived with her mother and extended family and siblings, all under one roof. She was friendly but shy. Mekayla was into music and chose to play a very difficult instrument, the violin. Probably the biggest quirk of her personality, though, was that she was self-conscious about her teenage acne. But who hasn't experienced that? Nothing seemed to be amiss in Mekayla's life at all. So, on April 12th, 2016, Mekayla got dropped off at school like any other day. However, when the school day was over, Mekayla's grandmother waited outside the school for her. Only then did she, and later all the other family members, find out that Mekayla had not attended classes that day. Though strangely, she did appear at lunch to talk to her friends. Over the next several days, police collected video from various Yorkton locations, discovering that Mekayla had roamed the streets by herself, texting on her phone, and even taking cash out of an ATM. The last time Mekayla was seen on video was near the bus depot at about 1:30 p.m. She was never seen again. There is no doubt that video has played a huge role in how our world has changed over the last 30 years. From dashboard cams for police to cameras on our phones that have captured many incidents as they happened, and the old-fashioned cameras that are still on the walls of banks and convenience stores. But their role in solving disappearances, in my opinion, is very hit and miss. I want you to think about that and the answers to these three questions as you listen to the interview. Number 1, given that Mekayla spent all her time on video alone, does this rule out that she planned to meet someone? Number 2, if Mekayla did get into a car with someone, what are the odds this was not captured on camera? And number 3, instead of paying so much attention to where Mekayla went that day when she wasn't at school, should we be paying more attention to how she was acting? Mekayla's family is open to all possibilities, but sex trafficking is a theory that permeates this case. The guest for this episode is the person accepted to be Mekayla's father, Rick Bright. Unfound news. There is no unfound news this week because this episode had to be recorded so far in advance that I couldn't include anything in this section that could be defined as news. Where you can find Unfound on these following podcast platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Podbean, and many others, especially outside the United States. Social media sites: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the newest one, TikTok. Listener support sites: patreon.com/unfound podcast, paypal.me/unfound podcast. The website, theunfoundpodcast.com. The email address, unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. And please mention Unfound at all true crime websites and forums. Thank you. I'm so happy to have on this episode of Unfound the man who's accepted to be Mekayla Bali's father, Rick Bright. Rick, welcome to Unfound.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Let's start here, the way that I introduced you. We have to just get this out there first. You have been quoted many times. You've done interviews since Mekayla has gone missing. You're in fact mentioned in the Wikipedia page that is now exists for Mekayla's disappearance. But why do you call herself why do you call yourself her father? Do we even know whose name is on the birth certificate? But you did have a relationship with Mekayla's mother. Why don't you start right there and clear this all up by telling the listeners?
Okay, well, pick it or not. I'm not exactly sure what that says. When Paula was probably about, I don't know, 5 or 6 months into the term or whatever, we kind of parted ways. So, but later on down the road, 3 years after my daughter was born, I phoned and asked if I was the father, and she told me I was.
Mm-hmm.
But, I asked if I could see my daughter, and she said she would think about it, and nothing ever really came of that too much. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, I need to ask, being that you, I don't know if she broke up with you or what, I don't know if it's any of our business, but 5 or 6 months into Mekayla's mother's pregnancy, you two broke up for whatever reason. Now, were you dating her mother? Were you with her mother when she conceived Mekayla?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and do you believe that Mekayla's mother was having any relationships with any other men at that time?
Nah, I don't think so.
Okay.
Not that I know of. I hope not.
All right. So that wouldn't then make sense that that you are Mekayla's father. Now I'll just have to ask, being that unfortunately due to some technical issues, this is going to be an audio interview only. Would you say that you look at least a little bit like Mekayla?
Oh, yes, definitely, for sure.
Okay. And probably I will get a picture of you and allow people to compare it. But you, for the last 20 years or so, you have considered yourself to be Mekayla's father.
Yes.
Okay. To your knowledge, has any other man who Mekayla's mother knew or knows ever claimed he was Mekayla's father, biological father, I should say? Has any other guy ever owned up to that?
No.
Okay. All right. And have you ever seen Mekayla's birth certificate?
No, I've never seen it.
Okay. All right. Very good. And so you don't even know what's on it, if there's even a man's name on it?
Yeah, I'm not even sure what would be on there.
Okay. Very good. Maybe we should just talk about this. This is her mother's going to be a very, very small part of this conversation, but we should maybe establish, how did you even know Mekayla's mother?
She was going to university here in Saskatchewan, and then we just started dating when she was living here.
Okay. And what year would you say that was?
Would have been 98, 99. Yeah, probably 98.
98. Okay.
In there.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Okay, and you were a couple until she was about 5 to 6 months pregnant with Mekayla.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. All right, let's and we know that by the time everybody's hearing our voice, they will have seen articles where you are quoted, and you've done interviews with Canadian media, correct, regarding Mekayla's disappearance?
Yeah, I've done a few here and there, I guess.
Okay. And one more question, an important question that I have to ask here. At any time since Mekayla went missing, have you ever been considered a suspect in Mekayla's disappearance?
Well, I don't know about a suspect or whatever, but the RCMP did, Paula thought maybe Mekayla was staying at my house, so the RCMP came and searched my house, searched my mom's house. RCMP took my DNA for if something ever bad turned up.
Yeah. Okay, so they did ask you, and we're going to get into how you found out about Mekayla's disappearance, but they did come and question you, and you didn't lawyer up or anything like that?
No.
Okay, all right, very good. Just had to ask. And I should maybe ask you this, where did you live? How close did you live to Yorkton at the time of the disappearance?
Saskatchewan to Yorkton it's roughly about 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
Just a little under 3 hours.
Okay. All right. And we will, once again, we'll get back to all of that in a little bit. So 3 hours, not close. Let's talk a little bit about Mekayla. Now, we should establish that you, even though you were considered Mekayla's father, you did not have any contact with Mekayla. In your opinion, why was that?
I just think it was the Michaela's families just that they just didn't, for some odd reason, didn't want me to have any contact with her. I'm not sure why that was, but
Okay. How over the 16 years before Mekayla went missing, how many times would you say you spoke to Mekayla? You never spoke to Mekayla?
only when she was 3 years old. That
Wow.
was it.
Okay. What about her mother? How many times did you say you spoke to her mother over those 16 years before Mekayla went missing?
Well, there was once when she was 3 years old, and that was it.
Wow. Okay. All right. I appreciate you being honest about that. So for 13 years from then until she went missing, you had no contact with either of them.
No.
Okay. But that wasn't because of you. That was because of them.
Yeah, it was. I'm not sure why that was, but yeah, it wasn't my choice anyway.
Okay, very good. Thank you. What have your impressions of Mekayla? In some way, did you try to keep tabs on her? Maybe you've gotten to know some people who knew her. Is there anything, I realize you're about as distant a man from his daughter as can be, but what have you been told about her? What have you learned about her? Maybe you've talked to some of her friends, anything like that you can pass on from what you knew about her over the years.
Well, I didn't really know too much about her over the years. I never had contact with, any of her friends or anything like that. I just kind of heard, stories of her, or whatever, that she was into drama and music and stuff like that. But other than that, I never had no information on that stuff at all.
Okay. Since she went missing in 2016, have you had a chance to get to know anybody who knew her?
No.
Okay.
No, not really.
Okay. And the listeners should know something. I have tried to contact, Rick and I have known each other probably for about 4 years. And just recently I got back in contact with him. Over that time, I've tried to contact, I've emailed or through Messenger, Mekayla's mother many times, at least 4 or 5 times. I've never gotten any responses at all. 0. So that is why we were talking to Rick. I would have liked to have interviewed both of them. But the mother or whoever is running their Facebook page has blown me off. So this is why we're doing.
I'm not sure why that is.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of a common thing, Rick, in your opinion. She hasn't done any interviews recently, has she?
Not that I know of.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. So this is why we have to do this interview this way. Let's talk about this. Her name was not last name Bali, Bali, very long. What was her last name before that? And do you have any idea why her name was changed from Niebergall to Bali? Whose last name is Bali? Why is that? What is your understanding?
Well, my understanding is that's her grandma's last name. I'm not sure what happened there, if Grandpa and Grandma parted ways or what that was, and then the family just decided to take on the whole grandma's last name, or that's kind of the take I got on it. But I can't say 100% sure why exactly that happened, but that was...
Whose last name is Niebergall? Whose last name is that?
That's Michaela's grandpa's last name.
Okay. And then her name went to Bali. Whose last name is that?
That's her grandma's.
Wow. So the grandparents are married and they change names or something?
I don't know if they got divorced or what
Oh,
happened
okay.
there.
Okay, very good. So she had got this name changed from Niebergall to Bali, Bali, and that was her name officially at the time of her disappearance. Um, in the last 6 years, since she has gone missing, once again, you've done some interviews. You were mentioned in the Wikipedia page. We realized that you'd had virtually no contact with her. But in the last 6 years, have you ever been told or heard about anything strange happening in Mekayla's life before she went missing? Anyone stalking her? Problems at school? Anything like that?
I think she was online quite a bit and talking to, a few people or whatever. So, like, when she went missing, these certain people that they could track down, there was some sites the RCMP couldn't get into for privacy purposes, but they did figure out a few people, and they questioned them. One person was actually even in the States, and then she did have a few boyfriends, but everyone's been kind of questioned, and everyone seemed to pass questions anyways with the RCMP, but whether or not someone was lying or not, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Okay, totally fine. But you've never heard anything in the last 6 years, even though you've been involved. RCMP has come to talk to you, even got your DNA, that Mekayla ever said anything like, well, somebody's stalking me. I thought she was, she thought she was being followed to school. You've never heard anything like that. Problems at school?
No.
Okay. Do you know anything? I read somewhere, maybe if you know something about this, you can maybe say you did. But is it true that she might have been cutting herself, as some teenagers do, maybe when they're stressed? Did you know anything about this? Have you ever heard this before?
Yeah, I've heard it before on a few things. There was one guy that was helping with the investigation on it or whatever, and he brought that to my attention. So.
Okay. Okay, but so maybe there was. I don't know what to make of that. I never did that. That sounds painful, but it seemed. I don't know if teenagers were doing that when I was a teenager, but it does seem like it has become a thing at one point. Okay. I don't know what to make of it, but it sounds like you had heard about it as well. All right, let's move up. Let's move up to that day, April 12th, 2016. So we're talking about a disappearance that's over 6 years old. It's in Canada, so this might be like the 6th or 7th or 8th disappearance that I've covered in Canada. And we're going to take this very slow so everybody can understand it. And the listeners should know that I'll also be doing a YouTube video to illustrate some of these locations in Yorkton. But what is your understanding about that day?
The whole video thing there seems a little weird, though. Like, she was in school she got dropped off of school, went in school, and then left school, roamed around town for a little while, and went to the pawn shop, and went into the tattoo shop, and kind of roamed around a bit, and then at lunchtime went back to school, just chat with a friend, and then left school again, and then was at the Tim Hortons coffee shop, and then it looked like they got pretty good video footage of that or whatever. It looked like she was chatting for someone. It looked like she was actually someone that knew her. And then it looked like, for some odd reason, meeting place got changed, which was actually, I think, to the bus depot. And then she went there. And then, the man there with the flaming tattoo, I don't know. There was like an eyewitness that said he heard him say to Michaela, "Hurry up, we gotta go." He just kind of opened the door and said that. So So then, like, that's what the RCMP told me anyways, like, in the 3 months of that stint, that they, you know, had a good lead, and that was that.
Yeah.
But then after the bus station closed, then all of a sudden, like a year and a half later, this man comes forward and says he was there, but he never talked to her. And then I kind of asked why, you know, what happened to this eyewitness. And then the police told me, they said, well, I'm not sure why you were told that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if they're, you know, just trying to keep it under wraps or, you know, keep an eye on the guy or what. But
okay. So this is all alleged. This is all alleged.
Well, yeah, I guess so. But you know, they did tell me there was an eyewitness, and then what happened to that eyewitness, I don't know. Whether or not, you know, after a year and a half or 2 years, people might start to question themselves of what they actually heard then.
Yeah.
So, and then, or else the eyewitness moved away and, you know, can't be tracked down or whatever. So I don't know.
Okay. So she's just some questions for you. Once again, if you know. Had Mekayla ever been to any of those places? For example, the pawn shop. She went to the bank. This Tim Hortons. You know, she's always by herself. Had she ever been to any of those places before, to your knowledge?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Any history of her walking around the town like that?
I'm not really sure. I've heard that she's cut school before, but what
she had
done.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, what she did when she was cutting school, I'm not sure.
Okay. I should ask you this, Rick. Have you ever seen any of these videos yourself? I mean, it's multiple places. We got this pawn shop, the bank, the Tim Hortons, the bus depot, where seemingly she was last seen. Have you ever seen any of those videos yourself?
Yeah, the Tim Hortons one and the one at school, but the bus station, unfortunately, there was no video camera there, and I kind of, in the back of my mind, I kind of think that's why the meeting place got changed from.
All right, we don't want, Rick. We're not going to get into any speculation. We try to avoid that. But it is believed though that there was some sort of video though that proved she was at the bus depot.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we have these various places she's walking around, and bizarrely, she did go back to school, and then she left again. And I apologize. There are people setting off fireworks on July 8th in the background. Okay. So yeah, here in just right outside my place, if anybody can hear that. All right, so she cut school. Your belief maybe that she had skipped school before, maybe not unusual. She's a teenager, although I never did that. But she's walking around, and these videos you saw, you didn't see her with anybody. She's by herself.
Yeah.
Okay. Your understanding, I realize that you were not there. We realize that. But what is your understanding that what happened at the end of the day? Somebody was supposed to pick her up. What is your understanding about what happened then?
Yeah, I'm not really 100% sure what happened after that. But at the donut shop, you know, there was a lady there that states that Mekayla asked her to rent her a hotel room in Regina. So, but what happened, you know, after depot is $1 million question.
Right. Well, I'm asking you what happened when, at the end of the school day, when she wasn't at school. What happened then?
Oh, well, her grandma's supposed to pick her up after school, and obviously grandma waited around for a while, and she never showed up, so they went back home and continued on with a bunch of phones from there.
Okay. And the Yorkton Police Department got involved fairly quickly?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. At what point did you find out that Mekayla was missing? How did you find out? Where were you when you found out that Mekayla was missing?
No, well, she went missing on a Tuesday, and I didn't get a phone call from the RCMP till Sunday night.
Wow.
They started asking me if I knew where she was and if I knew she was even missing. And I said I didn't even know she was missing. They said, well, I said, don't you watch the news? And I said, well, not really. It's kind of depressing, but. And then they said the last name and this and that. I said, well, I didn't even know her last name got changed.
Huh. Do you even know how they even knew being that you had no contact with her mother or Mekayla, how did it end up that you ended up getting called anyway?
Oh, well, Paula told them who I was, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she was kind of pretty certain that she was staying at my house.
Oh, was that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so your belief is the reason.
Unfortunately, it was not the case.
Yeah, I get that. So your belief is that when they called you, they were actually looking for her because they're kind of her mother led them in that direction.
Yeah, well, I was kind of the last resort, the last hope.
Okay. All right. What did you think when you found out that she was missing? Did you have any? I'm sure you had an emotional response to that, but once you started to find out some of the details of what happened, your own personal insight before you ended up hearing about any of the video, anything? Did you have anything that any knee-jerk reaction to this?
No, it was just pretty saddening to hear, and I tried my damnedest to see if I could reach out to him and hopefully get a response that way, but it didn't pan out that way.
Yeah. Okay.
I went and got a second cell phone with a different phone number out there, put it on social media, but unfortunately I never got a call, just a couple phone calls from overseas, and when the phone rang, it kind of was almost heart-stopping kind of thing, and then you kind of answer the phone, and it's some lady looking for another lady, and it's like, oh boy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that you tried to do what you could. Sounds like you got some crank calls or something, like nothing. Nothing that had anything to do with Mekayla's disappearance. I do have to ask you that at any point in the last 6 years, have you and her mother talked about Mekayla's disappearance even once?
No.
None.
None.
So it is interesting to me, Rick, that you two do not have any contact at all, but she has no problem mentioning your name as the reason is somebody that Mekayla didn't even know you, correct? Except when she was 3 years old.
Yeah, even then I don't think she knew who I was. I just phoned there to talk to Paula to see if I could see Mekayla at all if possible, but it was Michaela that answered the phone. I didn't really say anything to her because she was only 3 years old anyway. I don't want to stir things up or anything like that. But
right. So she mentioned you because she thinks that Mekayla might be your place, even though you had no relationship with Mekayla at all.
Yeah, I guess she thought that I might have been privately messaging her or something, or got a hold of her somehow, but I didn't even know that her last name got changed, so.
Okay.
I won't lie, though. I did try looking for her on the internet without any luck, but.
Okay. Just for, I already asked you about this, but we'll do this then. On the day of Mekayla's disappearance, where were you?
Yeah, I was at work.
Okay. What do you do?
Welder.
A welder. Okay. And like you said, you were working 3 hours away. All right. So the Yorkton police get involved. Of course, they find all these videos. Did you ever talk to the Yorkton police, or was it just the Royal Canadian Mounted Police?
No, it was the Yorkton police that came out to Saskatchewan.
Okay. Okay. How was that? How was that interaction with them?
It was all right.
Yeah. Did you know, like, kind of right away that maybe they were talking to you because they thought you might have been the suspect, or?
Well, I think they thought that I kind of knew where she was, and I wasn't saying I knew where she was, but that wasn't the case.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to, all right, so she goes missing, and like you said, this day, she's seen at these various locations, and, she's seen at this bus depot, which kind of doesn't even exist anymore, by herself, and then it seems after that, that something happened. You're calling it a meeting place. I don't like to speculate like that. We don't know that for a fact or not, but that's... you have a belief, that's fine, but we don't want to get into speculation here. There's no video showing that she went with anybody. There's no video showing she got in a car with anybody. So we just have to remember that. You've heard some of these stories, and I'm just going to ask you about them. There is a story that she got money out of a bank, and she actually wanted a friend to take her to this bank. Have you heard anything more than that regarding this particular story?
No, not really.
No. When did you first hear about that story that, she wanted to go and she wanted a friend to give her a ride to the bank? When did you first hear that?
Well, it was probably when, I forget who was the first news media to come out with the timeline of where she was all going that day in Yorkton. It was probably about 3-4 months later on down the road when all of a sudden the timeline started coming out.
Okay. And as I've stated, I've already recorded part of this interview because I'm working ahead a little bit. And, you should know, Rick, that I've covered a lot of disappearances where video, is part of the disappearance. But there's Mekayla. She's seen on video so much. It probably is more than all the other video that I've talked about put together, and this really kind of stands out to me in her disappearance. Let's move on to this. She was seen at the Tim Hortons. In your opinion, would you say that this is the place that she spent the most time at over those hours when she wasn't in school?
Well, I wouldn't say there's some time lapse there where they didn't really know where she was. But,
right. That's true.
I don't check where she spent the most of the time, but she spent a good bit of time there anyways.
Okay. Now, you, to your knowledge, on this video, it does show that she was on her phone talking to somebody, fiddling with her phone. To your knowledge, have the police ever made public who she was calling, who she was texting? Has anybody admitted texting or talking to her while she was at Tim Hortons?
No, not to my knowledge. Me anything about that if they know it.
Okay.
The only thing I was told is that her phone was shut off after she disappeared, and there was no pings on there at all.
Okay, and we'll certainly get to that a little more in depth with that. Thank you. There is this story about how she had texted "help me" to one of her friends while she was out there, seemingly when she was at Tim Hortons. In your opinion, being that you've seen the video, does it look like she needed help in that video while she was at Tim Hortons?
No, it probably just kind of looked like she might have just said that she needed help in kind of some other way. Oh.
It's like problems with her phone or something else, not because she was in danger?
No, probably like she needed money or maybe a ride or something or this or that, and then all of a sudden, then she texts, I think then later on she texts that she had got it figured out, so I think things started, the plan started rolling again, maybe, or what she had going on there. She got figured out again.
Okay. All right. So this is not when, I think a lot of people, when they hear somebody's texting, help me, of course, they think the worst. That's the last anything, for all of us, that's the last kind of text we're going to want to get. Somebody's texting, help me. But the way you look at it is that this was not one of those kinds of texts. It might have been just something to help with her phone or something else.
Yeah, but the one friend that she did actually text that to, her friend actually insists that it was for help, but the police kind of said that it wasn't. No,
Okay.
I don't know what to believe, and then.
Okay. So what you're saying is when this person did get this text, they did think the worst.
Yeah, they did.
Okay. Yep. All right. But it seems like her, putting these texts together with the video, when she sent this, it didn't look like she might have needed help with her phone or something, but there wasn't like somebody, running after her or anything.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
But to tell you the truth,
please.
I don't really know if that help me text came in when she was at Tim Hortons or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let me just ask you this, being that you've seen some of the other video. In any of those videos, does it seem like anybody was stalking her, following her, somebody chasing her, anything like that?
No,
okay.
Not at all.
Okay. Let's move on to this. Now, once again, these are just questions that I have to ask. It does seem strange to me, of course, that all of a sudden she shows up back at school. She skips school, and then hours later she shows back up at school like at lunchtime. Have you ever spoken to any of her friends or anybody have spoken to her friends, regarding what they talked about when she appeared back at school at lunchtime? Do we have any idea what those conversations were?
No, I got no idea what was said there.
Mm-hmm. Would you happen to know who these girls might have been who saw Mekayla?
No, I'm not really positive who they are at the lunch meeting there.
Yeah, all right. We have to remember they probably would have been underage, which means probably their names would not be released to the public anyway. So maybe the only people would know that are people who are at those friends or people like that. Maybe Mekayla's mother might know, but we've tried to contact her, but she's blown me off. Mekayla seemingly at one point had been asked about trying to get a ride to Regina. It's not Regina, it's Regina. To your knowledge, have you ever heard that Mekayla, did she know anybody there? Can you think of any reason she might have wanted to go there? What do you know about this city of Regina?
Yeah, I'm not really sure why she would have wanted to go there for, but I don't know if she knows anybody there or what her plan was to do there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. To your knowledge, have you ever heard had Mekayla ever been to the city of Regina? Maybe being that I'm a stupid American, I'll just ask you, how far is Regina from Yorkton?
Yeah, it's about an hour away, hour and a half, somewhere in there.
Okay. All right. But it doesn't seem, at least anybody she asked did not give her a ride, but she seemingly was trying to get there. She's trying to get this money, and she did get some money out of this bank. Suddenly, kind of sounds like she was planning to go somewhere. And then, of course, it sounds like they went back to class, and Mekayla just went on her merry way, leaving the school again. Maybe I should ask you this. Have you ever heard about Mekayla's, her mother or grandmother? Have they ever tried to, I don't know, of course in the United States, of course, we are a very litigious society here in the United States. Have they ever tried to sue the school or something like that, given that it didn't seem like the school really knew what was going on, that, Mekayla's just walking onto campus, walking off, seemingly at will? Has anybody at the school ever gotten in trouble for this?
I don't think so. Our laws are a little different here. So I don't even know if you could do that here.
Okay. Just seems weird to me that some 16-year-old can just walk on and off of campus at will, and nobody's saying to her, you weren't in class this morning, Mekayla. Why are you here? Just something like that.
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Okay. Let's move on to the bus station. Now, it does seem to me that you have your own personal belief of what might have gone on there. I don't know if there's any proof of that, but I would just ask you some point-blank questions, being that you have seen the video and you've been living with this for 6 years. Any proof, either with video or anything the police got, any proof that she ever got on any bus at the depot?
Well, no, they say that she never got on a bus, but I don't know how when you buy a bus ticket here, it doesn't really go on a name. You just buy the ticket and you can get on. Mm-hmm. So they say she didn't get on, but I guess the bus that would have left, they would ask the bus driver, and he would have known who got on that bus and who got on. So.
Okay. But no proof. So what you're saying is there could be a possibility that she actually did get on a bus.
Yeah, she could have got on a bus somehow, but...
Okay. Do you, I've never ridden a bus like that before in the United States. Maybe it's more common in Canada, but maybe you can... So maybe since you're Canadian, you can tell the rest of us. Would you need ID or something like that to get on a bus? Like if she did pay in cash, would you need ID? Is this like getting on an airplane, or is it a lot easier than that?
Oh, it's a lot easier than that, but I haven't ridden the bus in a long time myself, and then I think after a year and a half after she went missing, our transit system kind of just went under and is no more. All the bus stuff now is privately owned.
Yeah. Okay.
So
All right. So she's seen here at the bus depot, but there's no cameras of at least to our knowledge that she ever got on a bus. But it doesn't seem like we can rule that out. In your opinion, have you ever, since this has happened, have you ever driven to Yorkton and gone to the bus depot and kind of checked it out? Driven to these places, just checking them out, riding around?
Yeah, I've been there. I kind of looked at the place. I took pictures from all angles of it or whatever, just for my own sound mind, I guess.
Of course, I can see how you would do that. Being that you've been there, and maybe things have changed in the last 6 years, especially since it sounds to me like this bus line was privatized or went under or whatever happened. In your opinion, would it have been possible for her to be at the bus depot and then walk away from the bus depot and not be seen by any camera? What is your opinion on that?
Yeah, back then, I don't think security cameras were as common as they are now. Like, if you go to that bus station now, it's just some guy's just renting it out as a storage place, and there's video cameras all over there now. Oh. But then just on the other side of the bus station is just residential houses. Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of the edge of all.
Okay. So then once again, I realize that you have your own personal idea that maybe she got picked up by somebody, but once again, is it possible she could have been a bus depot and left on foot without a camera there picking her up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could have very well happened.
Okay. Yeah, but we have to remember, she left the bus depot. She's still in the middle of town, and it doesn't seem like any other cameras picked her up. My impression, once again, after 260 disappearances, she's seen all morning, all these different places. She goes to the bus depot, and then she's never seen again. So, I guess you could lead us to believe that she got on a bus, but maybe not. Let's move on to this. You had talked about the phone already. When was the phone shut off? When did that happen? Or when the battery died, it just went dead one way or the other. Do we know when that happened?
Well, not the exact. Well, yeah, probably pretty much right at the bus station.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you know where the last, have you ever been told, have the police ever told you where the last ping was of her phone? Was it in Yorkton? Was it somewhere else?
Yeah, no, it was in Yorkton. It doesn't show which way she left Yorkton at all.
Hmm.
And if it did, they're not saying, but...
Okay. Your understanding regarding her phone was, I realize you've had no contact with her mother or anybody else in the family. But do we have any idea? Sometimes cell phone carriers have like family plans where everybody can go in online and see who everybody else is talking to. Do you know if the police have done that? Do you know anything about the phone record information?
No, I don't know nothing about that.
Okay. All right. And there was an instance, and once again, you've seen this Tim Hortons video. There's a story out there that it seemed like Mekayla was doing something, like fiddling, I guess is the word, with her phone. Did you see that? Did you see that on the video?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what she's doing, but...
Mm-hmm. Can you even take a guess? Fiddling with her phone doesn't look. What do you think?
Yeah, some people say she was taking out the SIM card and stuff like that, but whether or not that's what was happening, I don't know. She could have been taking out one SIM card and putting in another one, or who knows.
Okay.
I can't say exactly.
Okay. All right, let's move on to this. Of course, you have these friends. Have you heard these stories about how she told her friends she was going on a vacation? Have you seen those stories?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any insight into that at all? Anything that you've heard in the last 6 years about whether there was any truth to that at all?
Well, no, I don't know if there's any truth to it or not. All that her friend said was that she was planning on going on a vacation for a little while, and then that's all she really said, I guess, to her friends, and never really said much more about it.
Okay.
Seemed a little secretive about it, I guess.
I agree with you, and it's also weird, given that she vanished on April 12th. I mean, how long does a school year go in Canada? When would she have been getting out of the grade? When was going to be summer vacation? Is it like the United States where school and in May or June?
Away. The end of June, start of July.
Wow. So I guess we have to ask, how is she going to go on a vacation if she was supposed to be in school, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Okay. Very early in this conversation, you brought up about her computer. To your knowledge, the police searched her computer. Have you ever heard anything about anything being found on her computer? Any strangers online? Any searches for Regina or any other place?
Oh, there's just like a couple guys. Like one guy sent her flowers to school. He was questioned, and nothing really came of that.
Wow.
And then there was this guy she was talking with online that he was in the States, and the police questioned him, and so on. But nothing ever really came of it.
Okay. All right, so nothing there, and maybe, even if they might keep that under wraps, even if they found out, especially since Mekayla is a minor, maybe it was an adult, maybe the police would be a little more open to that. To your knowledge, after Mekayla disappeared, has anything ever been found out about Mekayla that might have been in a surprise? For example, somebody going through her things and finding something she shouldn't have had, or like a diary, anything like that?
Not that I know of.
Okay. All right. And Mekayla, though, does have some siblings. Do you know who the fathers are of, it does seem to me that even though you are accepted to be Michaela's father, it doesn't seem like her mother wanted to acknowledge that except to kind of try to bring you into the disappearance, thinking maybe you caused the disappearance. But for these other siblings that Mekayla has, do you happen to know if those children have any interaction with their fathers?
Not that I know of.
No. Okay.
No.
Wow. I have to ask, I'm not here to pry, Rick, about your relationship with Paula, but it does seem to me, my perception, and I'm adult, I'm going to be 52 here in a couple weeks, but it seems to me like you were a couple, and then as soon as, she didn't want to be around you anymore, I got to ask, being you haven't had any contact with Paula since maybe around before Mekayla was born, what exactly happened?
I'm not really sure myself. I was just told that just kind of stay away, and if they needed anything from me, they'd phone and let me know, and that was it. But I never heard any phone calls or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing like that at all. I'm kind of, but
Did she even, was it like one of these situations where like you came home and all of her stuff was gone? Did she even tell you she was leaving? What were the what happened?
No, she had her place, I had mine, and it was just kind of a conversation over the phone kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where a parting of ways.
And there wasn't any. I gotta ask because this seems like it was like a very very clean break. That you've only had one conversation with her, and like you said, it was like when Mekayla was 3 years old, and that's been it over the last 20 years. This. Any insight into it all? You're the one who was with Paula for those years. Were you surprised?
Well, yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to get into.
Okay, fair enough. All right, because I think that probably this is a big question in the listeners' minds right now. You seem like a good guy. You've certainly taken an interest in Mekayla's disappearance since it occurred, even though you had virtually no interaction with her. And I've tried, and I'm guessing some other people have tried over the last few years to talk to Paula, try to get the publicity out there about Mekayla, especially if she ran away. And I'm a very reputable person, and she's ignored me, so I'm just going to take for granted that she's ignored other people. And so it'd be interesting to know a little bit more about Mekayla's mother. And it just doesn't seem like we know that much about her. Okay. When was the last time you spoke to police about Mekayla's disappearance?
Maybe about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
Year ago, 9 months maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It was just to do with a tip or whatever.
Okay. Do you, did they call you or did you call them?
I called them.
Okay. Are you surprised that, this disappearance has not brought you and Mekayla's mother, kind of back together? It seems like you both have a common goal to try to figure out what happened to Mekayla, no matter what happened, whether she ran off or was there foul play or anything. Are you surprised by that or not so surprised?
Well, I'm not really surprised, but I am a little bit. But on the other hand, I'm not really sure what Mekayla was told about me, so that could have something to do with it altogether, too.
Right. Did you ever get the idea, before she went missing, do you think that Mekayla, I know you spoke to her when she was 3 years old, but when she got to be like, to the point where, our like the human mind starts to know there's a world out there and everything else, Do you think that she knew you even existed?
It, I'm not 100% sure on that. I know one friend said that she said that she was going to look for her dad, but whether or not that was true, I don't know.
Uh-huh. That would have been news to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I think if she did know who I was, she probably would have reached out, I'm thinking.
Right. But that, to you, once again, to your knowledge, that never happened. You know, she tried to ever call you or email you or anything like that, that would be news to you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. So it seems like you do have some contact with the police. It's been over 6 years. The listeners just have to understand this is probably, we try to get into the details as much as we can regarding it, but, and unfortunately Rick was not allowed, it seems, to have any contact with Mekayla, and being that she was underage, that's I guess, her mother's right to do that, I guess. But it may have been that when Mekayla became adult age, 18, 19, 20, that, she could have chose to do what she wanted, and maybe she and Rick, if she had not gone missing, maybe, you and Rick might have had a relation, with Mekayla, and her mother wouldn't have been able to do anything about that. Of course, hopefully Mekayla will appear alive one of these days, and you two can get to know each other.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about what the police have tried to do over these past 6 years? Do you think that they've done everything they could? Do you think that they've maybe missed some things? What is your impression of the investigation over the last 6 years?
Well, I have my personal. Well, some days you get mad, some days are better, but it boils down to it though that I think they worked with what they had and did the best they could with what information they had and what leads they had. So.
Okay.
When the person just goes missing and no one sees where they went or what direction they went, it's pretty hard to even know what direction to start in.
It's true. That's true, and we start having to wonder. Once again, we don't want to speculate so much, but she's just walking around town by herself and with nobody. If she was seen with somebody, that would be something totally different. But she spent 5 hours in Yorkton, downtown Yorkton, by herself, with nobody. So if she was meeting somebody, why didn't they just meet in the morning? Why did it, she did meet somebody, why didn't it take place till 2 o'clock or something? It's hard to understand. It really is. To your knowledge, being that now you've been living with this for 6 years, are there any other young girl disappearances that seem to be like Mekayla's in that area?
There's a Mackenzie that went missing in Saskatchewan just about a year and a half ago. And no one really seems to know what happened to her. There's a few others too that kind of went missing. But if as you know, if you're a person that's kind of involved in missing people or whatever on missing persons pages, you don't realize. Yeah, the average person living next door that doesn't have a missing persons, in their family or anything, they don't really know how many missing people are out there. Like, Canada's not as bad as the States. When you get into the U.S., the numbers are pretty staggering.
They are.
Canada.
You're right, unfortunately, I agree.
I don't quite understand how that many people can go missing, and there isn't really a better way of making it aware.
Yeah. Yeah. The other, of course, we have to remember that the United States has 10 times the population of Canada, though, too. So maybe that's the. But I agree with you. We have 100,000 unsolved missing persons cases in the United States. It is disgusting. I agree with you on that. Just trying to handle these one at a time. But I've covered some Canadian disappearances too, and in fact, the most recent one was Ryan Stuka, Also, kind of going toward the western part of Canada. All right. So, uh, so is it your opinion then that since Mekayla went missing, there really has been no new news? Nothing that's popped
No,
up or
no.
anything like that?
Since she left the bus depot, it's pretty much the trail went cold from there. But there's been like a bunch of people reporting seeing her
Yeah.
all over Western Canada, Western U.S. Even had one person send me a picture of a girl that looked really a lot like her in Alaska and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, none of them turned up anything, and a lot of stuff, coming around from Vancouver. That's the west coast of Canada.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reports of her being seen there, but nothing's come out of it yet, anyways. But I've heard stories of missing people walking around for 10 years and all of a sudden just popping up here or there.
It happens.
So
It's rare.
happens.
Yeah, it happens,
Yeah,
but it's rare.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
kind of keeps my hopes up, though.
Yeah. Has it ever gotten back through the grapevine for any of her friends, if her friends have ever offered up any opinions as to what could have happened to her?
I've never really heard anything. There was 3 of her friends that did a little interview, but they never really went into great detail of what they thought happened or anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You have a Facebook page set up for your own personal Facebook page set up for Mekayla's disappearance in contrast to the one that's set up by her mother. What is the name of yours, Rick?
Mine? What happened to Mekayla Bali?
Okay. All right, and you run that page yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else helping you with this, Rick? Or is this just something, anybody else maybe, you have any brothers or sisters, who, I guess the people who had been Mekayla's aunts and uncles who have assisted with you? Who do you talk to about this when you really want to get something off your chest?
Yeah, no, I got no brothers or sisters myself, but I got a couple people that are helping me. There's a guy that does kind of like you or whatever. He does investigations and stuff like that. He's pretty good at it. He's out in Regina. And then there's a couple people out in Vancouver way too. But I would love to give them a shout out, but I can't because they got to kind of work behind the scenes of thing.
That's fine. I totally appreciate that. Maybe I'll ask you about that, being that this guy in Regina, and it does seem that Mekayla at one point did mention about going there. Has he ever offered up his own theory, being that he's working on this, up there in Canada? Has he ever offered up his own theory as to what could have happened? If you can say without ruining any, sort of thing, what are some of the things that he has done?
Well, he's looked into a whole bunch of different leads and this and that, but he's never really come up and said, well, this is what happened. He looks into the leads and keeps going at it and tries to, get that lead figured out to see if it's actually legit or not. But unfortunately, nothing's ever really come up positive yet.
Okay. Let's talk. Maybe we should cover this. You brought up this guy with the flaming tattoo. I think that some people maybe are if they're gonna read some articles on this. Do you put any stock in this, or was that like what we might call a red herring? A misleading piece of information. How do you look at that particular piece of information now that there was this guy with this tattoo, etc.?
Well, like I said, I got my own opinion on that, and I'm 95% sure that guy does know something. But like you say, that's just my opinion.
Right.
From what I was told before by the police, and then later on told I shouldn't have been told that, and
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I tried even getting a little bit of help from a lawyer thing on a Facebook page, but no one really seemed to want to help too much, which I don't blame them, but it's a touchy subject, that one.
Okay. Do you have? We're not. I would not allow you to say his name anyway. But do you know what the name of this guy is?
No, I don't.
You don't. Okay.
No.
All right. So allegedly, there's some guy there, and maybe they were seen together on video or something. But to your knowledge, there's no video of them leaving the bus depot together.
No.
Okay. All right. Rick, any final words before we complete this interview?
Not really. I just kind of, hope that this whole thing has a happy ending down the road, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah. Okay. So why don't you give out the name of your Facebook page again?
It's the name is What Happened to Mekayla Bali.
Okay. All right. Rick, I appreciate you being on this episode of Unfound.
No, thank you for helping out.
You're very welcome. And that was my July 8th, 2022 interview with Rick Bright, the accepted father of Mekayla Bali. We explained that title at the beginning of the interview. I thank Rick for appearing on both audio and video for this episode. As you heard in the interview, I have produced a video detailing all the places Mekayla was seen that day and the order in which she appeared at those locations. I also provide some opinions. Please find that video on the Unfound podcast channel on YouTube. The theme of this episode is why doesn't video help us as much as it seems it should for disappearances? Yes, I know video has certainly helped in some cases, but the success of it seems very hit and miss. There are just as many disappearances that had a lot of video evidence that were solved quickly as there are ones that were not solved quickly or not solved at all. Maybe the best example of this is Stephen Kocher's disappearance. Video cameras on two sides of a house in Henderson, outside of Las Vegas, captured him parking his car and walking down the street of one of the safest neighborhoods in all of southern Nevada. He goes out of frame and disappears, despite there only being a few houses on that side of the street. What I'm saying is on the video, he was probably within 1 minute of reaching his destination, and still, no one has found Stephen Kocher. How can that be? I've thought long and hard about this, and I've come to this conclusion. Unless video actually shows the missing person getting into a car, or jumping off a bridge, or being followed by people who can be identified, something like that, outside of those situations, video is just about useless. I'll go even further, and I'll now use Mekayla's disappearance as the example. Even if video were to suddenly appear that shows Mekayla walking 10 miles outside of Yorkton on the side of the road by herself, this would probably not increase the chances that much of finding her. Why? Because once anyone goes out of camera range, anything is possible. Mekayla, in this theoretical example, could still have been picked up by someone. She could have kept walking for another 50 miles. She could have gone off the road and committed suicide. You may say, well, at least this would give investigators a new area to search. True, but that would be about it. And we all know how many times searches fail. Not to mention, once again in this theoretical example, Mekayla could have turned right around without being seen doing it and walked the whole way back to Yorkton, and that new search area would then be totally erroneous. What I'm saying is, video must give investigators, the public, we the podcasters, something that is actionable or proof of what the actual cause of the disappearance is. Otherwise, there is no guarantee it will help solve anything. But I'll keep working on this theory and practicing it against known disappearances to firm up my conclusions. In the meantime, I'll leave the theorizing on the outcomes of specific disappearances to you.